I don't think people understand the true horror of Eastern State Penitentiary. They say the walls of Eastern State Penitentiary whisper at night. If you stand in the darkened hallways long enough, you might hear them. The faint sound of footsteps where no one should be walking. Soft whispers drifting through the air. And if you're unlucky, maybe even the sound of someone breathing right behind you. Eastern State wasn't just a prison. It was a machine designed to break men, body and soul. But the real horror isn't the history of torture, madness, and death that took place there. It's the fact that the ones who suffered never really left. Let me take you back to the beginning. And please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more real haunted places. It was the year 1829 when Eastern State Penitentiary opened its gates. Towering stone walls and castle-like turrets loomed over Philadelphia. A fortress designed not just to house criminals, but to reform them. The method? Complete isolation. Prisoners were kept in small, coffin-like cells with nothing but a Bible and their thoughts. They weren't allowed to speak. Not to each other, not to the guards. Even the guards wore padded shoes to keep their footsteps silent. When prisoners left their cells, they were forced to wear hoods over their heads. Blind to the world, blind to each other, they were ghosts, walking the halls of their own personal hell. The idea was that solitude would inspire reflection and redemption. Instead, it created monsters. It didn't take long for the cracks to show. Guards began to find inmates sitting in their cells, rocking back and forth, whispering to themselves. Some refused to eat, others screamed through the night. And then, there were those who stopped talking altogether, their minds broken by the crushing weight of silence. For those who disobeyed, punishment was swift and brutal. The water bath, ice-cold water poured over prisoners and left them outside in freezing temperatures until ice formed on their skin. The iron gag, a metal clamp forced into a prisoner's mouth with chains attached to their wrists. If they moved, the chains tightened, tearing their mouths open. The hole, a dark pit beneath the prison where inmates were left naked, in total darkness for days. They weren't trying to rehabilitate these men, they were trying to erase them. And it worked. The first death came in 1831. An inmate named Joseph Taylor was found hanging in his cell, his face twisted in terror. His hands were tied behind his back. But Joseph wasn't the last. Over the decades, men were found hanging from bed sheets, wrists slit open, faces frozen in terror. Some said it was the isolation that drove them to it. Others believed something darker was stirring in those stone walls. Whisper, help me. By the early 1900s, Eastern State was housing some of the most dangerous criminals in the country, including Al Capone. Capone's cell was luxurious, fine furniture, a rug, even a radio, but Capone wasn't spared from the prison's curse. Night after night, Capone woke up screaming, clutching his bed sheets, muttering about James Clark, one of the men murdered in the St. Valentine's Day massacre. Capone swore Clark's ghost was in his cell, watching him, whispering to him. Sound of a whisper. "You can't hide from me." Capone begged for help. No one listened. Music fades. Eastern State finally closed its doors in 1971. For years, it sat abandoned. But the spirits inside never left. Visitors report cold spots in certain cells. Others hear voices when no one is there. Paranormal investigators have recorded shadowy figures in cell block 12, moans and whispers caught on tape. And then there's Gary Johnson, a maintenance worker who came face to face with the prison's dark past. Gary was fixing a lock in one of the cells when the door slammed shut behind him. He turned and saw a shadowy figure at the end of the hall. Then, he felt hands around his neck, choking him. He collapsed to the floor. When he came to, he was alone. Sound echoing whispers. Eastern State isn't just haunted by ghosts. It's haunted by pain, by the echoes of those who died behind its walls. And if you visit, if you stand there long enough, you might hear them whisper, "Help me." Music fades into silence. Eastern State Penitentiary remains open to the public, a museum, a monument to America's darkest prison experiment. But remember, the walls are listening, and sometimes they whisper back.